Qiana McNary is a graduate of the Chicago College of Performing Arts, where she finished a Master of Music Degree in voice performance. She began her vocal studies and graduated from Ohio Wesleyan University, where she received her Bachelor of Music Degree. She has performed in numerous opera and musical theater productions in and out of the country. Qiana's regional theater credits include Ghost the Musical, Theater at the Center, and Ain't Misbehaving, Portland Stage Company. Her Chicagoland credits include Crowns, Hairspray, The Little Mermaid, Caroline, and Sister Act. She is a proud member of the Actors Equity Association, Mu Phi Epsilon, Music Honorary, and Delta Sigma Theta Sorority, Incorporated. And currently, Qiana is a singer-songwriter who performs with her band, the Mcnairy Experience.
Now, this next song I know many of you know, so I'm going to need a little help. And I want y'all to sing this chorus like no other. Because I also know that sometimes us and our black skin, we get hated on just for the way our hair looks, the way our bodies look, our nose, our lips, our eyes. So with this song, I want you to just tell all these haters that they can just hate on me. If I could give you the world on a silver platter, would it even matter? You'll still be mad at me.
Please join us in welcoming to HAPA singer and entrepreneur Qiana McNary.
You can hate on me.
Hi, Qiana.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, to our fourth installment of Hammond Academy for the Performing Arts Over the Rainbow, Conversations with Artists from Oz. I am Miss Odom. I'm the music director for The Wizard of Oz, as well as the vocal director for HAPA. And I'm so excited to be sitting here this evening with Miss McNary. So students and audience, anybody out there watching, know that we have a student representative. Her name is Serena Rogers. Come on, join us, Serena.
I don't think my camera's working.
This happened last time. Technology, guys. This is what we're dealing with. This is 2020 at its finest right here. But that's all right. We can hear you, Serena. So just know that Serena is going to be monitoring the chat on YouTube as well as on Facebook. So please join the conversation. This is an interactive hour. Come at us with your questions, and Serena will join us a couple of points throughout our talk this evening. And I'm sure that we'll get her camera figured out by then. Thanks, Serena. All right. So how you doing, Qiana? It's good to see you.
Wonderful. Happy Monday to you and everyone watching. I am so honored to be here and to share this time with you.
We're really blessed to have you here. So thank you for sharing your time with us. So we're going to start off. So a big theme, and of course we're opening Wizard of Oz this week at HAPA, and a big theme that we've been talking about in all of these conversations is what home means. And of course, there's the iconic line in Wizard of Oz where she says, "There's no place like home." So I want to start off with the same question for you. What is home? And we'll start there. Define it.
Sure. Home for me is a place of familiarity, a place where you can gather with people that know you and love you for who you are and everything that you bring to the table. It's a place where you will receive support as well as constructive criticism and feedback, because they want you to always be the best you that you can possibly be. And I mean, just all love, just a loving environment.
Beautiful. So you were telling me a little bit before we started our chat about how home has been many different places physically, throughout your upbringing. So could you tell us a little bit about where you come from?
Yes. I'm fortunate in that I have really been a kid that was flexible in growing up. I was born in Champaign, Urbana. My mother was finishing her doctorate at the time. So we were living there. And then when I was very small, we moved to North Carolina. And I spent a majority of, as they would call, my formative years in North Carolina. So for me personally, that's home, and that's where my parents are now. So whenever I say I'm going home, that generally means I'm going to North Carolina. And then I did a brief stint. My mom is a scientist, so she had some research break, and I moved while I was in high school. I know you're probably like, oh my gosh, how terrible at 16 and a junior in high school. When I had friends, I was doing a lot, making strides in high school. We moved to Ohio so that she could teach and continue her research at the Ohio State University. And the blessing there was that I got accepted into school, into college at Ohio Wesleyan. So while I was disappointed in my ending my high school career in Ohio, it was a blessing in disguise. And then lastly, you know, I've lived in Italy as well after graduating from college and spending a year traveling and touring and doing some operatic experiences there, and then making my final stop here in Chicago when I came here in 2008. Oh my gosh, can't believe it's been that long for graduate school. And I've made this my permanent residence. I mean, unless Broadway calls.
Ring any moment, anytime now.
I'm out.
Yeah. Yes.
But
Okay.
Chicago is home.
So tell me a little bit. You know, I know that you're a graduate. Of course, you just spoke about Ohio Wesleyan, but then also the Chicago College of the Performing Arts. There it is. Those are the words I meant to say.
It's a lot.
There's a whole lot of C sounds there. But anyway, so could you tell us a little bit about why you chose? Was it just the location, or why did you choose that master's program in particular?
Yeah. So while I was in Italy studying and performing, one of the producers there who was running the program was like, "Oh, I have a really good friend in Chicago, and I think you should study with her." Mm-hmm. And at the time, I was boy crazy. So I had somebody that I was seeing, and he was like, "You should move to LA." So of course I auditioned for UCLA and kind of kept putting it off on the back burner for Chicago because I was like, man, I just never saw myself being back in the state of Illinois. I thought that, you know, it was always great to visit family, but after speaking with the voice teachers, which was key critical in my decision, I'm so thankful that I was able to pick up the phone and have those conversations. I learned that the teacher I really wanted to study with was at the Chicago College of Performing Arts. And I felt that she understood the direction in which I wanted to go and how I wanted to grow with my voice. And I felt secure in that she would take care of me to get me to that place. So, of course, auditioned for Chicago College of Performing Arts. And when I got the acceptance letter, I knew that's exactly where I wanted to be. So that was really how my decision was made.
Could you, so you say that, you know, having that conversation with the voice teacher, that you felt she reflected back to you where you wanted to go and, you know, sort of the vision that you had for your voice. Could you tell us a little bit about what that looked like then?
Yes. I will say it's probably not at all what it looks like today and my needs, but I recognized I needed someone that could train my voice. To be perfectly honest, for all those out there, I have a natural talent in that I didn't take my first voice lesson until I got to college. So I have a very big voice, and taking that untrained voice in college was something. I think while my saving grace was that I could read music, and that was always a positive, but I didn't know how to control my voice at the level that was needed for classical singing. So fast forward to getting ready for graduate school, because I had spent so much time in college training my voice and taking that year to study in Italy, I really learned that I needed someone at the time that could hone those skills, that could refine my delivery. That was something that I really wanted to work on, expanding my range. So while I knew I was a soprano, and in that particular category, I really needed, of course, in classical music, there's even more specific sopranos. So I needed to figure out a teacher that could tell me what I was. And what we found out, I was a spinto. And so that would turn into being, right? Mm-hmm. And into eventually growing into being a full lyric So I knew that I wanted some specific direction in how to get there. And my voice teacher, Judith Haddon, could get me there. And she really taught me all the things that I needed to take with me. And I was very appreciative because she also helped me navigate the business side of things. And that is something that I think as young singers, we don't think about. We think about just getting stage time. And it was very important that she taught me how to negotiate to make sure that I understood that if your contract says this, that you need to be doing that, or, anything, or if you get an uneasy feeling about working with someone, that's not by happenstance. So again, she taught me all of those critical things that have carried over into not just performing classical music, musical theater, but even how I handle engagements with my band or as a solo artist. So it's all of that. So that's really how I arrived at that and going to Chicago College of Performing Arts.
What a gift to have that wrapped up into one teacher, being able to talk you through not only the logistical business side of things, but then also just who do you want to interact with,
Exactly.
on this journey. Wow. That's what a gift that she was able to give you. So could we rewind just a little bit and look at, so you said the first time that you had a voice lesson was in college. So when you entered Ohio Wesleyan, were you planning on a music career, or what did that look like for you?
No, secret, I have obsession and a shoe habit. I love shoes. I can't get enough of them. I'll never forget, side note, when we were moving from North Carolina to Ohio for that small stint, and we were getting estimates like with the moving companies, every single mover was like, how many shoes does this kid have? Like, I've never experienced that where someone's commenting on my shoe collection.
Sure. They charged you by the shoe for that. I see.
I really feel that that's exactly what they were trying to calculate. But no, I was doing a lot of medical internships, surprisingly, in high school. And I really wanted to be a doctor, loved chemistry. And I felt that I want to be anesthesiologist because I just loved how the combination of science and medicine went hand in hand. And that's the track that I was on. It just so happened I met my professor, who is now deemed my other dad. He kind of scooped me up, was like, heard me sing for a concert. And he was like, you should come to Ohio Wesleyan. I was like, nobody's heard of this school. I'm not going. Are you crazy? And he was like, no, I really think you should come and audition. Like, your voice is none other. He was like, learn this aria. And of course, I'm like 17, like, learn an aria. The one thing I'm proud of, I can mimic. So I was able to listen because, like I said, I had nobody that was teaching me that, this is how you should sound, or this is what you should do with your voice. So I mimicked and I auditioned for Ohio Wesleyan. And I was just like, I'll just keep this in my back pocket for all the other schools that are going to come through, and, got accepted into the schools that I wanted. And I was planning on going to Spelman, which is a HBCU, historically Black college in Atlanta. And, got the letter from Ohio Wesleyan that I had gotten in and gotten a full ride to attend the music school. And I was shocked. Like, they want me, little old me. I mean, I don't sing classical music or anything like that. And, what it boiled down to was this opportunity of a lifetime. And I am so thankful that I listened, had a conversation with my parents to dissect the pros and cons for attending Ohio Wesleyan. And it, come to find out, Ohio Wesleyan, they are a small private school with a stellar music program. And what was unique is that I walked out of that program with a Bachelor of Music, which is very hard to obtain because it is a very specific music degree and it is not offered at a lot of colleges and universities. So, that's how I arrived at making that decision. But the best thing I could have ever done.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit more about the conversation that you had with your parents. I can imagine that when you're looking at a medical field with your mother being a scientist and kind of looking at the path of becoming an anesthesiologist, which is a notoriously lucrative position. And then you're looking at on the other side of it of going and getting a bachelor's of music, which, as you said, is it's a very specific degree. It's not a bachelor's of arts or a bachelor's of science, but a bachelor's of music. Can you talk a little bit more about what that conversation was like?
Yes, definitely. The first con was that I would not be able to afford all these shoes, going through. But
Yeah.
no, I am so blessed. I just can't say that enough. My parents are awesome. For all of you listening, I'm an only child, so I'm sure you're like, oh, she's such a spoiled brat. No, I'm really not. Like, I do not exhibit any of those characteristics, but I will say my parents really grew me up to have good conversations with them and honest conversations. And so when we were making that decision, we kind of sat down and my parents asked me, not what they were thinking, but asked me the pros and cons for why I wanted to attend Ohio Wesleyan, where I could see myself. If I go down this path of being a musician, we talked about the struggles that could potentially come, how I could be the waitress singer waiting for my big break. What does that look like? What other skills do you have that you can bring to the table? Do you have a plan? Like, once you finish school, what do you really do with a music degree? Because my father is an educator and he was a principal at the time. And my mom being a scientist, of course, they were like, well, we have what we call practical careers in that, it's very easy to see the way in which you will advance. My mom completing a PhD, that's the highest, form of education that we can obtain outside from, I guess, being a medical doctor or a lawyer. But in that field, having a PhD is something. So she knew exactly the path in which she could go. And my dad, being a principal, and then potentially, if he wanted to, going into higher education. So again, they knew that, asking me, what is it that you want? And more importantly, my parents were very supportive. My parents, never missed a performance. And just to be clear, also some background, I've been singing for a long time. So I was singing in talent shows and in the school plays, in choir. I participated in all of those things because I thought it was fun, but never thought it could be a career. So now when I was faced with that decision, they had the hard talk with me to let me know this is what it's all about. They even had some reinforcement of talking to other professional musicians and having me speak to them in order to determine, is this the path that you ultimately want? We will always be here, but what do you want to do? So again, very helpful in determining that. And of course, they gave me the option. You can try it out. If you absolutely don't like it, you already know what you can do, which is switch back into the medical field and go. But my first year was, fantastic. I had voice lessons, which was new. I was learning about different types of music. And then, of course, it was a phenomenon to know that I was an African-American female entering into classical music, and just the hopes of meeting other people that look like me in that particular area. So again, breaking barriers. And I won't say that I've been the first for anything in the classical field, but sometimes being in that space was something. So navigating that experience, but again, fantastic first year that made me continue on to finish the degree within 4 years.
So I want to talk a little bit more about, as you were having these conversations, which what a beautiful space. I can kind of envision it in my mind. Like, you're sitting in your living room with your parents and they're walking you through, okay, this is what it's really going to look like. Let's talk about that path. I think another sort of theme that comes up again in the Wizard of Oz is we're talking about this place, this Oz, this sort of magical landing point where once you arrive there, that it's your wishes will come true. And in famously in the line, the lyrics for the Merry Old Land of Oz, they talk about how they just laugh the day away and they work for 30 minutes and then the whole rest of the day is just fun. And so I think it speaks very interestingly to this idea, this kind of carrot, that we start chasing really right now, high schoolers, right? This space that you're in right now, you're having this conversation a lot about ambition and, what motivates you, what drives you, and ultimately in order for you to be successful. And I think it's important to have a conversation about what is success then. So Ms. McNary, if you could talk to us a little bit as far as what did you think success was going to be in that moment when you were having that conversation with your parents versus where you are today?
hmm Oh, hands down. I was 18 when I finally went away to college. So hands down, success was like making $1 million and being famous, like having 1 million Instagram followers, or I should say, Facebook was just no, Facebook wasn't even on the scene yet when I was going to college. But I think it was MySpace. That's how old I am. I know.
I'm there with you, girl. We're the
Oh,
same. Yeah.
I
Mhm.
know. But having MySpace followers and people knowing who you are, or it was a real big deal if people were downloading your music on Napster. Like, ooh,
Mhm.
if they could pirate your whole CD, you were winning. So I think at that exact moment, it was one of those. Being a well-known household name was really my end goal, especially because I knew I was going to classical music. So I thought that if I could get to the Metropolitan Opera or Carnegie Hall, that means solidified that I made it. So I think that's how I define success at that time.
Okay. So could you contrast that a little bit to what is that like for you today?
So now I would say that success for me is really about constant and steady work.
Mhm.
And we can actually stick a pin in that because of COVID. I think that has also changed the name of the game because a lot of performers like myself are on hold because we can't go to the theater. But I will say my success is on having consistent work and, more importantly, doing what I love. So every time I step on stage, that is my happy place. I always tell people that if I could do nothing else in this world but sing and perform and become a character, that's exactly what I would want to do. And I feel that I am 100% successful in doing that. I have experienced all the things that famous people have experienced, and without the intrusion. And I think
Mm.
for me, that is the best part of the success that I've achieved. I have played at House of Blues on the main stage, not on the side stage, on the main stage with House of Blues. I have done that. I have dropped a Christmas album and a single, and it's on iTunes. Like, I can say that I have done that. I have traveled the world literally performing, and people can't say that because they are always chasing to be the next Beyonce. Not that you should not do that. If that is in your heart of hearts and that is what you want to do, go for it. But success for me has been defined by doing all of those same things and still being able to live at my residence and not have people taking terrible pictures of me or making a meme about me or anything like that.
Mhm.
But again, that's how I define success. And it has been a joy to be able to do that and to meet people that I can share the stage with that are equally as talented as I am. That, wow, you can't put that into words. It's a wonderful experience.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, we're going to bring Miss Serena back onto the stage.
Awesome.
And yeah, hey, Serena. See, I knew we were going to get your video back up and running.
Yeah.
There she is. All right, Serena. So what questions do we have from the audience?
So one question is, what is the best advice you have ever heard?
Mm-hmm. The best advice I've ever heard is do what you love and love what you do. And those go hand in hand. Like I said, if you're not happy doing the work that you're doing, you should try to find something else because it's a pain, let me tell you, when you're doing something you don't love.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So the next question says, how do you stay healthy as a performer who does numerous consistent performances a week?
Wow, vocal health. I could tell you, my classical training taught me a lot about good vocal health. Number one, it's always about being healthy all over, not just about your voice. So I work out at the minimum 3 days a week just to make sure. Surprisingly, yoga and Pilates is incorporated into that because that allows me to have great breath control. And I know everybody's always like, oh, but she's not so skinny. No, but I have amazing breath control because I take the time to be able to have flexibility with Pilates and yoga. And then just caring for my voice. I try not to stress it out. When I'm in performance mode, for example, I went to Portland last year to perform in the musical Ain't Misbehavin'. And I had shows probably 7 times a week. I'm very disciplined. So it's very little talking during the week if I can avoid it. If we were back to how many text messages I send or emails, it'd probably be like more than over 1,000 a week, because I try not to talk. And then just drinking good tea with lemon. I have a humidifier. And I have one that travels with me, which is always nice, not just the big one. And then just getting rest. I can't stress that enough. You must rest. Getting at least 7 hours of sleep each night peacefully. So I have playlists that are, either like the yoga music or just smooth jazz, like anything that will relax me, just so I can make sure that I am rested. So those are some of my secrets.
I understand what you're saying. I have playlists for each different mood.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
The next question says, do you feel like there's a crossover between acting and singing? And do you need or use acting skills as a singer?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I teach this with my students now. Don't get me wrong. There are moments when you can just stand and sing and deliver a song, and that's beautiful. But for the most part, I do believe that there is crossover in acting and singing, because I want to convey something with the words that I'm singing to my audience. And the only way that I can do that most of the time is basically by acting it out. This does not mean that I over exaggerate my movements like, woe is me. It's not that per se, but it's how I use my voice. So sometimes I can convey, people always tell me, even if they close their eyes, they can tell when I'm smiling, whether I'm talking or singing. So it's little things like that. Or if I raise my eyebrows or furrow my brow, like you can tell a lot either by those small movements. And again, utilizing that acting in my voice. So yes, crossover.
Okay. So what would you say is your favorite part about your job?
Mm-hmm. My favorite part is becoming a character. For the first time when I did The Little Mermaid, I played a villain. And that was very tough for me because I'm super nice. And it was hard to think about the things that Ursula embodied. We love her as a Disney villain. Most people pick her as their number one. But it's something different to embody her as a character. You have to think like her. Why does she do the things she does? Why does she sing Poor Unfortunate Souls? It's great song, recognizable, but why? And I think the best part of my job is when I do the background study of this particular character, and I make a whole backstory about who they are, where they've been, why they're here, and channel that for my audience. So that's the best. I get to become somebody else, and I love it. Can't get enough of becoming that particular character.
So you're honestly helping me a lot because, yeah, you're just helping. I just want to just.
I'm so glad we're having this experience.
So what would you say that? I totally messed up my words. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
What would you say is the hardest part about your job? Like what? I don't know. What's the hardest? If you get what I'm saying.
That's a good question. I mean, in all actuality, it's always a temporary challenge. And for me, I would say whenever I get a script to learn an entire musical, I remember when I did Sister Act, I was super geeked because I was cast as Dolores and being the lead. But it was a challenge because in the musical, she carries the entire show. She gets maybe 4 times to be off stage. And if you can imagine, in a 2-hour show, 4 times, and those 4 times were literally to go change into my habit to become Sister Mary Clarence, to change into when we went to that bar scene, like I got to walk off, but like came right back on. I think another time when is the chase scene when they're running from her Dolores's boyfriend who's trying to murder her. And then the final time was when they were singing, I got to come out in the white dress that she talks about throughout the whole show. So other than that, I was literally on stage the entire time. And she has a lot of words to say. lines, I should say, that she has to say. So when I got the script and saw that it's nonstop, it was quite overwhelming. But again, temporary challenge, because I knew by accepting this role, I had a responsibility not only for myself, but for the rest of the cast. People don't realize that as the lead, you keep the morale up of your entire cast. And if you have a poopy attitude, I can guarantee you everybody else is going to have one too. So having that responsibility meant I had to be on top of my game. And that forced me to take the time to study my script and be prepared. And not to be that I was trying to outshine anyone, but I was their leader, so to speak. And that's why I said it was definitely a challenge, but temporary, because the finished product meant that we were going to put on a powerful and amazing production because we did that together.
That sounds really tiring, but overall became really beautiful.
That's why I said when they asked about my advice, do what you love and love what you do. So I love that so much that it's not something that I get tired of, because I get excited when I'm cast in a new role and can perform.
So if you could go back in time and you could tell your younger self something, would it just be that, or would you like advise yourself something like that you would do different?
I probably would buckle down a little bit more on my studies. You don't know what you don't know. And it's not so much that I wasn't doing something I wasn't supposed to. It was more or less just telling myself to focus a little bit more and take it seriously my first year when I was studying, and make sure that, I cross all my T's, or maybe expand my repertoire. I don't know. That's some of the advice I probably give to my younger self. But I honestly wouldn't change anything, because it allowed me to be on this path that I'm on.
I don't know. I just like the way that you word things. It just sounds like kind of like on a spiritual level.
I have had a lot of time to reflect, and that's important as well. So I really do try to go back and think about the experiences that I have. And like you said, it's not so much that I wish I could change anything, but I always think about, if I'm presented with this again, how can I do better?
So
Thank you so much, Serena. So you're great. We're going to have another chance to be able to ask questions at the very, very end. So thank you so much for bringing all the questions from the audience. Audience, remember that towards the very end of our talk, in about another 20 minutes or so, we're going to have another round of questions. So please continue to place your questions in the comment box. And Serena, we'll see you in just a few minutes, okay?
All right.
All right, thank you. All right, great. So at this time, we would like to invite you to sing. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're singing today?
For sure. I love this musical, Cinderella.
Yeah.
Prior to COVID, I was on my way to being the fairy godmother, but has paused. So I would like to just sing Impossible, and just sing a clip, a small bit of it. But it is very near and dear to my heart, and I love it. So
great. Take it away.
All right. Impossible for a plain yellow pumpkin to become a golden carriage. Impossible for a plain country bumpkin and a prince to join in marriage. And 4 white mice will never be 4 white horses. Such folderol and fiddly-dee of courses. Impossible. For the world is full of zanies and fools who don't believe in sensible rules and won't believe what sensible people say. And because these daft-eyed dewy-eyed dopes keep building up impossible hopes, and possible things are happening every day.
Beautiful. I was having flashes of Whitney. I just was.
Yeah, herself.
Gorgeous. Thank you for treating us with your gorgeous voice. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, So I want to talk a little bit about, so you've told your story as far as growing up,
Mhm.
what it was like in your undergraduate experience and your graduate experience. So some time has gone by, right, since then.
Yes,
And I know
yes, it has.
personally, me too. I know personally that, after grad school, that was the time where everything, my idea of success changed drastically.
Mhm.
So I'm wondering if you had a similar experience and if you could tell us what it looked like after school came
Mhm.
to a close.
Oh, for sure. Again, I think that I had the mindset that as soon as I finished graduate school, everybody was going to hire me just because I had these degrees. And that's not how life works. Don't get me wrong. For some, it does. But that was not my story. Afterwards, I was auditioning and trying to figure this whole thing out. And surprisingly, I got my break not with classical music in the city of Chicago and theater. It was through musical theater. Don't get me wrong, always loved it and sang those things, but I just was like, I don't know, because I'm on the path to the Met. And a director took a chance and was like, come on over and do this musical. And it was Smokey Joe's Cafe. And I was like, oh, well, this is kind of like a review. This isn't even really a real musical. Like, what are you talking about? Like, okay. He was like, no, I think you would be fantastic singing this. So at the time I talked it over with my voice teacher and kind of was like, well, I don't want to hurt myself because there's a lot of belting and I am not a belter. I can do it safely throughout a song. So for example, when I did Hairspray, doing Big Blonde and Beautiful, singing that as motor mouth, picking safe choices that could still deliver. But I could not, people, they just asked me about my health. I can't belt 7 shows a week, and continue to do that and still be able to give you the best performance. So all that to say, got into Smokey Joe's Cafe and my eyes were open to this new musical theater world. And I continued, down that path, but still mixing the best of both worlds in that I started picking up church classical gigs and building my, network in the church or oratorial, as we call it classically, or the oratorial field. And again, people started recognizing me and they would ask me. And what I learned after graduate school was that a lot of times it's not about necessarily your talent and skill. That plays a factor, but it's about who you know. And that sealed the deal. I couldn't quite put my finger on it when I first graduated to figure out that a lot of times people got the gigs that I was, coveting and wanting because of knowing who was in charge. So I made it my mission to get to know people and try to get to know them not on the music scene, but in other avenues, whether it's, joining an organization that they are a part of, or and therefore knocking out the community service that I was passionate about, or going to dinner parties and meeting someone, or taking on what everyone else deemed the smaller gigs. Like, oh, girl, I wouldn't sing that because they're only going to pay you $50. And I was like, well, that's $50 more than that I came in with. So I'll take that. But because I took that $50 gig, it turned into a $500 gig because they wanted to use me again for something else. And I quickly learned also being on time is critical, and making sure that you present your best. Because people will always walk away with a lasting impression of who you are. And I guess the third thing on that list is being kind. Being kind goes a long way. Being generally concerned about someone goes a long way. And they will want to talk to you because you are kind to them in that moment. So again, wrapping all of that new knowledge up allowed me to make that transition. But like you said, when I graduated, I just knew one audition I was in the Met.
I felt the same way. It's so funny. Like just that, the sort of delusions of grandeur, that you have in youth. But you only learn by doing it, right?
Oh, for sure.
Some great life advice. Obviously that's not just for performers, but everything you just said. I mean, like, as you said, being on time, being kind and being prepared, showing up to do your best, that takes you a long way no matter what profession you're going into. So great life advice.
Absolutely.
So I'd like to, we have character focuses each month at HAPA and Morton High School, and we've had 3 that I think will ring a bell for you. One of which was ambition, which we covered a bit, and then the second is respect.
Oh.
And the third is empower, which we'll talk about in a second. But I'm wondering if you could tell us a bit about your experience with the word respect, perhaps in terms of Miss Aretha Franklin herself.
Ooh, RESPECT.
Yes.
So it's really unique. One of the things that I have learned in this business is sometimes you have to create opportunities for yourself. And I, based on happenstance, walked into creating a show. And it's based on Aretha Franklin. We call it All Hail the Queen, since she is deemed the Queen of Soul. And we started out in a small space here in Chicago, Davenport's Piano Bar, because they were looking for a new talent. So I answered the ad thinking like, oh, I'll find out what they're even talking about. And originally, they agreed that I should do Whitney Houston. At the time that we were finalizing the contract, Aretha Franklin had passed away, and they immediately picked up the phone and was like, can you do Aretha? And I was like, oh, she's really not my voice type. I don't know about this. And they were like, well, think about it, and we're going to send you an updated contract to do Aretha Franklin. I was like, oh gosh, here we go. Now I'm going to have to dig, because I was like, man, I know, like, you know how you love singing people's songs on the radio, but you never thought that you would really embody who they are. So I immediately went into nerd mode, because I wanted to read all about her. What were some of the things that made her who she was? And I finally said, okay. So I talked with my band, because this was a contract with my band, the Mcnairy Experience. And I told them what happened, and they were like, oh, sure. Like, we'll back you up 100%. Let's find some creative ways. I love my musical director. He's amazing. He was like, let's find some creative ways that we can make this fit for your voice. So sure enough, by the end of it, we come up with this amazing hour-long tribute to Aretha Franklin, and some creative things happened along that road. We came up with my band is known for mashups. So if you visit our YouTube channel, you'll see a couple mashups that we did, and that's actually how we won the competition we were in to go to the House of Blues. So we did some mashups with Aretha Franklin to determine her like gospel medleys, because she has such an extensive catalog, and we were trying to jam pack an hour. And that's how we came up with the solution, was to create some mashups of some of her own songs. But yeah, I mean, ever since then, it took off. So we did that first performance at Davenport's, which was, again, small, seating about maybe 70. And the good news is I'm glad that we did it that way, because it was such an intimate experience. And then we, again, word of mouth, someone heard about us and wanted to bring us to Evanston. So then we got to a bigger theater, and we were like, oh, this is really cool. And then we went to another place out in Morton Grove at their library. And they were like, they picked us up there. And then the final was the biggest performance that we've had to date, which was at the DuSable Museum in Chicago. And that seats well over 600 and jam-packed. Like, I mean, we sold out probably a couple weeks before our show. So again, fantastic. And then what was supposed to happen this year was we were actually taking it on tour. So we were going to do a 3-city stop, going to Indianapolis, Columbus, Ohio, and St. Louis. So we are super geeked that at least the good news is all of that is on hold until we find out how to deal with COVID and what those maybe future restrictions will be. But that, that was an opportunity I created for myself. And I am so grateful I followed through with that particular plan. But as a result, it has yielded us to be one of the top recognized Chicagoland tributes for Aretha Franklin.
So could you talk to us a little bit about the beginning of the Mcnairy Experience and how you were able to curate this team that you have today?
Yep. So I created my band because I wanted to step out of my comfort zone and do something fun. Like, I wanted to sing all of the crazy cool songs that were popular versus singing classical, which is, very strict in following an outline of the music, really no deviations. You may be able to, do an arpeggio run but nothing like free, like, woo, watch out now.
Right.
Moving to musical theater, which is super fun, still giving a little more freedom, but still staying within the bars because you will always have a conductor. And then moving to my band, I wanted to just do what I wanted. I wanted to be able to control the space that I was in. I wanted to be able to tell people, like, I want it to sound like this, or I want to, change the key and make it more comfortable for me to sing in. So I was, toying around with the idea, and a friend of mine was like, oh, you should name it the Mcnairy Experience. And I was like, no way, we got to find something really cool. And my friend said, Qiana, you're an only child and you're a girl. Your dad is not going to have another boy at this point where he can give that name to someone where it will last. So you should probably name it the Mcnairy Experience. So that way you have something lasting. So when you get married one day, you will always be able to, sustain Mcnairy. I was like, you're so smart. Why didn't I think of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So came up with Mcnairy Experience back in 2011. And, started taking on small gigs where people were like, oh, can you sing from a little backyard barbecue? And I was like, sure. Like, you want the Mcnairy Experience? Yes, we'll be there. And then it turned into bigger birthday parties, and then ultimately leading to, creating full shows. And, a conglomerate of people that I've met along the way that were looking for opportunities as well. Don't get me wrong, they are all professional musicians in their own right. Sometimes we clash in a sense of, hey, are you free, Saturday for this gig? And they're like, sorry, took another gig, so we work around the calendar. But again, they have become such good friends. They're family, hands down, not even friends anymore. They're family because we all have each other's backs. Again, we put 100% effort into that. And, just coming up with creative ideas. As soon as the pandemic hit, we were originally going to, try to do some of those really cool videos where bands come together, and we're going to do some Aretha videos. Mm-hmm. We didn't get a chance to go on tour, and someone was like, I think you should do a Black Lives Matter concert. With everything that's going on, you can definitely put that on, and it will address everything that's happening. I was like, let me think about that, because I also was thinking, like, how do we present this virtually? Mm-hmm. Safe. So started reaching out to my network and figured that out. And our Black Lives Matter concert, which was in September, was born. And again, it was a way for us to really hone in on some topics that are relevant to today, and, are relevant to me as an African-American woman. And I was happy to create that platform for my band to perform and share our talents with the world.
What a perfect segue into the next topic, which is empowerment. And so this is a broad question, but for my students that are watching, for the young people of color that are on the other side of the screen, mm-hmm. what would be the biggest piece of advice that you would have for them in particular in this, creating their own path in the world, as you have so brilliantly done?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say never apologize for who you are. You can't change that. Always step first into every door being confident about who you are. We all come with flaws. We all have things that, are quirks and make up who we are, but never be ashamed of that. Never be ashamed of your skin color. It's beautiful. And if nobody has ever told you this up until hear my voice loud and clear, that your skin is beautiful. I think sometimes by society's norms, we try to conform, and that's just natural, and it happens. But I can't say enough, just continue to be who you are in this world. And I think that will take you very far, being unapologetically you.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
At this time, let's bring Serena back on. See, we have some more questions that have come in. Yep, come on in, Serena.
Step into the room.
There she is. Oh, yes. Oh, your light went out. We can see you, though. You're okay. We can see you. There she is.
Sorry.
All
I'm
right,
sorry.
Serena, that's okay, honey. So are there any other questions that have come in from the audience?
Somebody asked, have you ever done a one-woman show?
No, not yet, but would love to.
Good idea.
What
Yeah.
show would you want to do? If you had a chance to do any show, what would you do?
Whew, good question. I probably want to do Caroline or Change again. And I know it's an again, but that's because I would like a longer run. I think it was just too short and so many people deserved to see it. So I would be totally on board to do that show again. That'd be a dream.
What was your favorite show? I'm just curious. What was your favorite show
that I performed in?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so difficult. I like them for all the different reasons. I would say probably one of my favorites would be The Little Mermaid because my costume and makeup were out of this world. Transforming into Ursula was, I mean, fantastic. I had tentacles and everything that moved. So, yeah, I think that was hands down a favorite.
So, what do you do to help you achieve your goals?
Mm-hmm. I set a plan. Personally, I pray, and so I have a prayer journal where I write dreams and goals, and I pray on them and help asking for guidance to be in that way. But I also do my part, which is continue training, continue learning, and I think in order to reach a lot of those goals, it's because I put in the work to do it. Again, I take time to do even like I said, small gigs. I think we get caught up sometimes in money. And don't get me wrong, we need it to survive. No doubt about it. I am not naive to that. But I think sometimes we miss opportunities because we're so driven by the money when, again, it could be an opportunity to be able to meet someone that you never would have crossed paths with had you not taken that opportunity, regardless of the money.
That is very true.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do miss a lot of stuff because they base it on money.
Yep.
So, what is your dream role?
Ooh, dream role. I really, would love to check off my box. Being in a Cinderella. I think being the fairy godmother, I'm so close, just so close, and then COVID. But I could check that off the list because I think that while Whitney Houston played it and opened our eyes to seeing an African American.
I think we had a little bit of a glitch, but you're back. So yes.
Okay. So I was just saying, I think it hasn't always been translated to the stage. So I would love to, be the fairy godmother, Cinderella.
Not that my opinion matters, but I think that you would fit that role perfectly. Not that it matters, though.
I'll take it. It's important to me. So I appreciate that.
So is there another artist or singer that you would like to work with in the future?
Oh, sure. I mean, so many. I mean, I would love to, work with Jill Scott, Beyonce's, the Ariana Grande's. I mean, all the pop artists, I would love to work with them at some point in time or do some collaboration with them. I'm just open. I enjoy music that much that, people, and again, I'm humble enough that if they were to call and say, hey, would you sing background vocals for me? Yes, I sure would. And that's the thing. Like I said, I think people miss opportunities because they're not the star. And it's not always about that. It's also about the experiences and, again, the people. So if I had the opportunity to ride on that tour bus with them to say, oh my gosh, I was on tour with Beyonce. It was the best ever. And they're like, how did you do that? Oh, I was a background singer. that would be the world to me. So I would enjoy that very much.
I would definitely proudly say I was a background singer for
Yeah.
Beyonce.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there? I don't know why they didn't. Would you consider Hello Dolly?
Oh yes, actually, that's on my short list. I would love to do Hello Dolly. I think Dolly's character is amazing, and I'd be open. Surprisingly, one of my mentors, Ife Butler, was set to be Dolly at Theater at the Center this season, but due to COVID, it didn't happen. So I feel she has set the path locally, and I would love to jump in on that too.
Like, I think I'm probably just young, but I don't know what that is. Honestly, would you be able to explain it to me?
Hello Dolly.
Yes.
It's a musical, and it's set in New York, and it's about this independent woman, and basically she's the talk of the town, and it just really centers on her. So, you know, I think it definitely is empowering, which is the subject that we're talking on, because it puts a female lead at the forefront, and she carries the show.
So, who would you say impacted your life the most?
Hmm. You mean impacted my life in a sense of to where I am today, or that?
Or just in general?
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly honest, it's my parents. I really do feel that they have set me up for success, and I've been able to watch them. I never tell people that they're perfect. If you were to meet my parents, they're like oil and water, because they have two different personalities, and they're big personalities. If you can imagine a scientist who is very focused on that, and black and white, no gray area. And then my dad, who is an educator, and all the gray area in the world, because he knows how to bend with his students and teachers. Married. That's the life I grew up in. But again, I would say that they have been the most influential, because they raised me to be who I am, but more importantly, supported me along the way. Any endeavor, no matter how small, I'll never forget my dad telling a story about when I tried out to be a cheerleader. And at the time I was playing basketball, and I deviated from the plan, because I was really good at basketball and played from the time I was in third grade until high school. But I deviated from the plan when I was in eighth grade, because I wanted, in my mind at the time, to be a pretty girl. And I thought that that's where all the pretty girls were. They were cheerleaders, right? And I told my dad, I'm gonna audition, go to tryouts, and be a cheerleader. And I'm sure he clutched his collar and tie, like, oh God, help us all. My daughter wants to be a cheerleader, from being a basketball player. That was more his view, like, oh, how do we go from one extreme to the other? And his words to me were, you can do it. So what do you think it takes to be a cheerleader? And he had me out there on the lawn practicing splits, watching me do cartwheels, and and was like, all right, are you ready for the tryouts? And surprisingly, I made the team. But all of that to say, like, they probably have been the most influential. My mom making sure that I was ready, calling me to send kind words before performances, like before opening night. They're there. And like I said, no matter where I perform, my parents have been almost at every performance, whether it's in town or out of town. They're there. So.
That is so sweet.
Thank you again, Serena. You've been an awesome student representative. Thank you so much thanks for bringing all those questions to the table.
Yeah.
So bye. Okay. So in closing, I can't believe the hour has come and gone so quickly.
So much fun. Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of yourself. It's been beautiful to get to hear your story, and also to get to hear you saying you've given a gift to all who have tuned in this evening. So thank you. Just in closing, you've talked a bit about the many effects that COVID has had on your professional career. So I'm just curious, as far as the hope that you have for the arts as we move it into a new era, and how you feel like COVID maybe is giving us a bit of a pause to be able to reevaluate values perhaps in the arts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say so. My hope is that people that do not perform take away how important this is to us and how this is our livelihood on the line. This is how we eat. This is how we pay a mortgage, how we pay rent, how we do anything. And when that's taken away from us, many of us are lost because this is our outlet. Like I said, my happy place. Yes, everyone, I have a real job. I am a director of HR and talent acquisition. But my freedom comes when I sing and when I perform. And if it was a choice for me to continue down the path of HR or sing, I'm hands down going down the singing path. And so I just want people to understand that this is so important to us and it means so much. I think moving forward, we will have to figure out safe ways for us to gather. And, I hope it really is with the vaccination so that we are all safe. But, figuring that out, like ways for us to continue to be able to perform. I am pleased with the outcome that I've had with virtual concerts. And a shameless plug, my band, we're doing a Christmas concert. So if you guys want to join us in December, I hope you'll get a ticket. But again, I've enjoyed the virtual opportunities, but for me personally, it's not the same. Like I feed off of a live audience. I become who I am and transform on stage because I can see that, if I sang the song the way I'm supposed to, there's tears in your eyes, or you're with me, you're cheering and clapping and moving with us because we, like with Aretha Franklin, when we do Rock Steady, everybody's on their feet, or I can command the space to tell people to get in the aisle and dance and all of these things. So I definitely miss all of those things. And I hope that when we return from COVID, that people also have a new appreciation for the arts, that they too have missed going to the theater.
So tell us, where can we find information about that holiday concert coming up soon?
Yes. If you visit www.themcnaryexperience.com, I think it's in the chat, or you can, look for us, the McNairy Experience. If you look us up, you can find a way to get our tickets for our Home for the Holiday concert. There it is. It's in the chat. I see it. Everyone take advantage. You will not be disappointed. I promise you that. There are some amazing holiday classics that and a couple that I got a chance to write myself. So that it will be a wonderful, wonderful night.
Awesome. Sounds like a great way to celebrate the holidays. So definitely check the link out in the comments below. And speaking of virtual experiences, so this whole series is leading up to the opening of The Wizard of Oz, which is coming up this Thursday in a living room near you. That's Thursday the 12th, as well as the 14th at 7 p.m. And then also November 15th at 2 p.m. And you can get your tickets now. You see that on your screen at hammondapa.booktix.com. And we definitely hope to see you all there. And then again, please join us for our very last, I'm sad to say, it's already our very last artist in this particular series. We have Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand coming to us tomorrow, who is the director of the Oakwood Aeolians, who have been voted the Choir of the World on multiple occasions. They were, in 2019, the first all-Black choir to win at the ACDA conference in Kansas City. So Oakwood University is an HBU, and they just set the bar very high. Let me say that. Very, very high.
You will not be disappointed tomorrow. Tune in.
Mm-hmm. So join us tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, same place for Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand. And again, Qiana, thank you so much for sharing yourself tonight. It's been a pleasure.
Oh, anytime, friend. Anytime.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
All right. We did it. Nice
All right.
job.
Oh.
Serena, you killed it. Nice job. So
You
good.
really did.
Thank you.
Yes, good job. My mom texted me in the middle of the broadcast. I love this Serena.
Yeah. This Serena. Yeah.
You get a Mama O thumbs up.
For sure. For sure. Like you're made for the screen, my friend. That was excellent stuff. Good stuff.
I mean, I had to walk around. See, I felt kind of
Were
bad.
you eating dinner?
You were like, you have 20 minutes. I did start dinner. I did.